start painting. We've got the chassis primed, and it's not just been primed with a filler primer. We've put an etching primer on here first so it'll stick to the bare metal. Then I did body work on it. In these areas that we see, especially in the front of the car, I like to clean up the welds and do some body work. So we did the body work here. And you can see this is a clean weld, and there'll be a cover that goes over that. You don't have to sand and fill your welds, but at least on the front of the cars that we do as a turnkey, we do that. It just looks better. Now that I've got my primer on, a filler primer, I need to sand it, and I'm going to start. You can do with the DA. This is the dual action sander, and 400. Now you can't pick it up with the camera, but I'm not a 400 scratches, and 400 is really the minimum you want to go to. 600 would probably be better, and there's multiple ways to do this. This is a DA, wet sanding, or dry sanding I mean. And when I sand through a little bit on the corner, that's fine. Now if I go a big spot and sand all my etching primer off of there, I need to deal with putting an etching sealer back on it. The DA doesn't work very well in the corners. I mean, you just can't get in there and make it smooth. So you have to hand sand that. So again, I've got 400. Now in hand sanding, there's several ways to do it. I'm dry sanding now, and it clogs up the paper really quickly. You can take a blower and keep blowing your paper off and get a longer life out of your paper, but another way to do it is wet sanding. And this is a wet sanding paper. It'll say on here, I believe, wet or dry. A lot of them say that way. So this paper is made to sand either dry or wet. So when we wet sand, the water we use is really just a lubricant to help sand. And we can sand the whole car like this, and it would be just fine. We could dry sand the car with a DA, especially on the flat open spots. It's a little bit quicker. We could dry sand around the corners if that's what you'd want to do. Personally, I like the wet sand. So we'll dry sand the big areas, I'll wet sand it all, and I'm going to get this to 600, and then we're going to be ready to paint it. I'm going to look at it at that point, and I'm going to determine whether I want to use a sealer or not. It's not necessary to use a sealer, and unless I've got too many areas that I'm seeing through into the metal, I'm just going to go ahead and put the base coat on here. So I'll get it prepped, and we'll be back in a few minutes and just start painting.